I
Great.
am.
Great. And now in your Seoul, just now you are in Seoul. What time is it?
I'm not in Seoul.
Oh,
Professor, but I cannot see your camera.
can you see me now?
Yes, now
That's
I
good.
can see you.
Okay.
Hello, Professor.
Welcome, Matthew. Welcome, Matthew. Matthew, are you from America?
Yeah, I'm from Maryland.
Maryland. Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
It is near 1 year that I want to come to visit near Maryland.
Oh, really?
One of my, yeah, but because of COVID, I should change the trip, the date and trip.
Yeah.
Maryland
Yeah,
is so cold now.
Oh, yeah. But right now I'm in Florida for soccer right now. I've been
Wow.
here since like January.
You are
Wow.
a soccer player,
Yeah.
professional?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. After 1 year, you will be professional, 2022.
We'll
Perfect,
see.
I hope.
Hopefully. That's the dream.
Yeah, why dream? It's a reality. It can be reality. So
Yes,
some
exactly.
part of psychology can help you in understanding more behaviors in soccer, especially in soccer. Also,
Absolutely. Especially
yeah,
sports psychology.
yeah. One part is sports psychology, one of the most money maker fields of psychology now, applied psychology. And in Asia, my country is the #1 country in soccer. Iran.
Oh,
And
Iran. Yes.
yeah,
Iran are very good. They are very good.
yeah. Iran is very good. And also Korea. Jaime is from Korea.
It's Hemi.
Yeah. Jaime is from Korea, and
Korea
Korea
are
and
good
Iran
too.
are the toughest countries in football. We call it football. In Asia, what you call soccer, we call football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents are Italian. They call it a calcio.
Yeah. Culture. And for example, FIFA is football association, not soccer association.
Yes,
It's not
football association. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It is not FISA. FISA is football soccer association, but it is FIFA.
That's
But
a
I
good
don't
point.
know why. Yeah, but in America, I don't know. It is called soccer, and football is another thing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, in Italy, the soccer league of Italy is what the name of the national league of soccer in Italy? It is very famous.
The first division, the Serie A.
Yeah. Germany and Italy has one of the good football, as you call it, soccer league.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also Germany is very good. Yeah, Serie A, yes. I found that there was another name. I didn't remember the name of the football league in Italy. In Germany, it is called, I see, the Bundesliga.
Bundesliga. Yep.
Bundesliga is from Germany.
Germany.
And
Serie A, Italy.
Serie A
Ligue 1 is France.
Spain is
La Liga, and
La Liga.
Premier League, England. Yes.
Yeah. La Liga. Yeah. It's very good. Yeah, Italy is from. So you are both from Italy.
My parents are both Italian. I was born in America, though.
America.
But I've been there many times because I have family there.
Oh, in Italy?
Yeah.
So you know Italian language so good?
Yeah, I can speak and understand it. Not fluently, but I try my best.
I know that when they want to say thank you, they say I
Grazie.
Grazie. Yeah, grazie.
Yes.
It's a very famous word. Okay, welcome to psychology. And I don't know how many students I should be waiting for them, but now we can enter the course of psychology. Amy is the second semester. She has she is very, very, very hardworking. #1 student, top student.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear.
Yeah. In one semester, I have Amy and other students. That is students became 1,000 out of 1,000.
Oh, wow. Do you teach other courses as well, or psychology
yeah.
currently?
No, the course was about, what was the course we had together, Amy?
I remember.
I think it was Introduction to Sociology.
I had the same class with Courtney.
Yeah, Courtney. Courtney became 1,000 from out of 1,000 with 2 children. Courtney has 2 children.
Yes.
And your number was so high. I remember that your grade was so high also. You're hard work. Okay, let's go to the course, and yes, it is here. The name of the course is Introduction to Psychology,
I
Site
have
1010.
a question.
Ah, say it.
I mean, um, like, do we need to buy the textbook?
20?
Now, do we need to buy the textbook?
You should have it. I don't know. You can borrow it, you can buy it, you can download it if it is possible, but you should have it. It is not enough to only study the PowerPoints.
Okay.
And the book, because this semester university changed the book and they advised me about the new books. This book is very, very, very applicable book, very applicable book. I searched near 2 days for finding this book, different books. And this is also, I think this 2019 or 2020 new book, and with the applicable courses, applicable matters about the psychology. Because of that, yes, highly recommended to have the book.
And I
Also,
have another question.
uh-huh,
Like, which edition should I buy?
fourth edition. The last edition is 4th edition, yes.
Or that
Yes, you can see it, Psychology and Your Life, Feldman, the author is Feldman, 4th edition, from McGraw-Hill. And they gave you a lot of devices for quizzes and rehearsal and anything. McGraw-Hill is very good publication around the world, especially in the field of digital publication, ebooks. So the course is Psychology and Your Life, Feldman, 4th edition, 2020, I think. Okay, at first in the book, it says that we work in a model, so-called power model. Power model for studying, P for preparing, and R for reading, E for examining. It's a model for different parts of, let's go to the book, I check it with you in the book. Power model by Feldman, also the model is not from himself. It's a model about how we can learn effectively the different aspects of your courses. But it is very important for you, especially if you want to go to master degree and after that DBA. It's very important to know how to study correct, because if you know it one time for all of the rest of your life, it is very good, because studying is a job. Studying is a job, can be a job as a faculty, as a researcher, and you should know the skills of this job. It's something like soccer. Everybody can play soccer in his street, but he or she is not a professional soccer man or soccer woman. If you want to be a soccer, you should go to football club. And training and hard working, and as Matthew says, It may be a dream to be a professional soccer, and it can be money maker also. When everything, you look at everything as a professional, as an expert, you should have the good professional expertise in that field. And studying and learning and teaching is a job, can be a job. Sometimes it is your highest need. For example, you are a student, one of your highest needs is know how to learn in the minimum time with the maximum effectiveness. So good, why not? Sometimes, like me, it's some part of the interest, some part of as a job. I should know how to study, how to keep in mind, keep in memory, and how to rehearsal and how to remind. It is very important. So because of this, one part of psychology, we will talk about this today. One part is about school psychology and education psychology. Education psychology and school psychology talk about these matters. For example, how memory shape and how memory can consolidate in your brain, in your mind, and how can, for example, retrieval your what has been in your memory and other parts. It is about education. How is the effect of stress on your, for example, memory, or fatigue on your memory, on your education. Power is the acronym for these words. It is for you prepare, organize, work, evaluate, and rethink. Prepare, organize, it is organized, work for O, evaluate for E, and rethink for R. It is called power. For example, this method is very, very simple method. Very, very simple. You can use an ebook and only use the most important vocabulary in your text. Remember, note that. Only 20% maximum, at the maximum level, only 20% of the words are keywords. You should find the keywords. Only 20% at the maximum and the highest level, only 20% from each 10 words, only 2 words are keywords. From 5 words, only 1 word is keyword. At the worst scenario, generally is lower than this. For example, you can see my highlighted words. For the part of organize, 1 keyword is root, mental roadmap, outline. That's it. For the concept of organizing the power model, once we know what our goals are, we can develop a road to accomplish those goals. The organized stage involves developing a mental roadmap of where we are headed. Psychology and Your Life 2N section highlights the organization of each upcoming chapter. Read the outline at the beginning of each chapter to get an idea of what topics are covered and how they are organized. For example, it's very important. When you want to know and to memorize everything, it is impossible. When it is possible, when you are genius. If you are genius, okay, that's good. But only less than 1%, only less than 1% of general population are genius, with less than 1%. So we are ordinary people. We should know the ordinary skills to do the ordinary things. Becoming a professional soccer is an extraordinary? No. It's a hard, yes, but not extraordinary. At least Matthew knows about 50%, at least 50%, that they are super professional soccer. Super, not professional, at least. Face to face, as the friends, at the coach, and other people. When 50 people can do something, we can do it also. It's a Japanese proverb. They say, if you can do something, I can do. If you cannot do something, I should do. If you can do something, I can do too. Why not? If you cannot do something, I should do it. Why? Because it is the emptiest space that nobody can do it. Such a good chance. Okay? Because of that, you should know skills about everything. And other things is about the reading. It is very, very, very important. In my country, SQ3R, it is 5 levels of studying. We teach to the students at the end of the elementary school, I think, or at the first year, no, at the first year of the middle school, we teach our students SQ5, SQ3R. At first, survey, know the headlines, know the outlines, looking back, looking ahead. After that, questioning, evaluate, rethink. At the beginning, some questioning. After that, 3R, reading, recite, and review. You have to do this model for everything you are reading. If the thing that you are reading is important for you, if the content is for me to memorize, for example, for 4 years, 5 years, or no, for lifelong, if it is important for you. No, if you want to be a top student and you want to know the details and so integrated together, not this, for example, one part in that side of your brain, another part, other side of your brain. You want to attach them together, not detach. It is very important to go based on this model. It is highly approved model, SQ3R. At first, survey, after that, question, after that, reading, after that, recite, and finally, review. Okay. Module 1. We have 4 modules in this section, in this part, chapter 1, Introduction to Psychology. Psychologist at work. Each module in this book, each module has some learning outcomes, some expectations, and some questions, and some rethink, each module, not each chapter, module by module. Define the science of psychology. Describe the subfields of psychology. List the major specialists for working in the field of psychology. Each session, I think sometimes we have 1 chapter, sometimes regularly we have 2 chapters, sometimes we have 3 chapters. But ordinarily, we have time only for 1 chapter. And the questions at the quiz is from your PowerPoints. And it is very important. I am not here to read the same book that you can read yourself for yourself. It's not important. I am here to elaborate and to describe and to explain and giving you some examples, some applications from the real world. In each, for example, human resource management, I teach psychology, sociology, organizational development, change management, negotiation process, leadership, and conflict solving. These are the courses. None of them, some of them are for master degree, and some of them, just for example, this course is for bachelor degree. It is not important to be here to read the book for you. I'm not a storyteller. I'm your instructor. I should teach you that something that you cannot find easily in your book, or you cannot find at all in your book. It's very important. Except of that, you go to the courses that you can only read the book and pass the quizzes, and finally you will be undergraduate or graduate. So, Sami, what is the meaning of what is psychology? How do you think? Can you see the PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes.
What is
Yeah, we can.
psychology? Yeah, what is psychology? What's your definition, your own definition of psychology?
I think psychology is like the mind of one human's beings
Mm-hmm.
and their, I guess, like process of thinking. Something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Thinking, mind, other keywords. Hey, me, other keywords. What is the first word associated to your mind when you hear the word psychology? The first word, no thinking about. The first word, what you are thinking. What is the first word associated to your mind when you hear the word psychology?
Psychology.
Matthew, yeah, yeah. The first word, don't think.
I think it
No, don't think. The first word. When I say psychology, what is the first word in your mind?
mm, brain.
Brain, Matthew?
Thinking.
Thinking. Okay. Thinking, brain, emotion, action, manipulation, society,
Processing.
processing, information processing, hypnosis, dark side of the moon. So many words that some of them are very simple and some of them are very hard, very complicated, not easy. So let's go and see the scientific definition of psychology. Psychology is the scientific studying of behaviors and mental processes. It's overall accepted definition of psychology. When we call it scientific study or systematic study, no important. For example, we call sociology is the systematic study of social human societies and social members. Okay, so the systematic is means scientific, based on the scientific method. So psychology is the scientific studying, scientific investigation of behaviors and mental processes. So what the keywords are in the definition of psychology, we have three keywords. First, science. Second, behaviors. Third, mental processes. It is the scientific studying of behaviors and mental processes. Okay? Behavior. What is objective? What you can see. We will see in the next slides of this PowerPoint about the history of psychology. At the beginning of 20th century, because of the enormous development, enormous growth of basic sciences like chemistry, like biology, like medicine. Also, medicine is not basic science, but like medicine, especially in physics. We had some great eternal name in physics, like Albert Einstein, like Max Planck, other people. And also in America, we had Tesla and also Edison. Because of these great names, especially in physics and chemistry and industry, there was an idea that when everything wants to be a scientific matter, it should have two components, two traits. One, it should be observable. Secondly, it should be measurable. So observation and measure are the major components of science. I want to say you some additional information. When you want to access the truth, access the facts, access the reality, we have three ways, three procedures, three methods. The first method, it is not repeatable in other people. Only you experience it. And you cannot only repeat it for yourself. Only, for example, one thing it is very accidental. But in that experience, you grasp some part of reality, some part of truth, some part of facts. You cannot repeat it. You cannot describe it for other people. Other people cannot observe your experience. but it is absolutely true for you. The methodology is intuition, and this approach is called mysticism. Mysticism is an approach for gathering some part of experiences that you cannot describe your experience for other people. You cannot handle your experience for another repetition, and other people cannot observe or measure your experience. But it is true for you. So this approach is called mysticism. The method of mysticism is intuition, with different, for example, name for definition. Sometimes it is religious intuition, sometimes it is not religious. For example, in old China, we have a lot of people during meditation, they have very, very, very deep intuitions about the facts, about the laws of nature, but they cannot approve and show, and other people cannot observe their intuition. It is the first method for gathering information, gathering facts, gathering truths. The second one, to know the laws of the world that can be repeated by other people, but we cannot show it, and other people cannot observe it. But we can repeat it, and we can measure it. It is gaining the facts by thinking. The methodology is called philosophy, rationality, sorry. The approach is called philosophy. The method of philosophy is rationality. The approach of mysticism, the method of mysticism is intuition. The approach is philosophy. The method of philosophy is rationality, thinking, deep thinking, logic. Two ways. And the second way, that you can show your results to other people can observe your results. You can, and other people also can measure the results, and the laws are inductive or deductive. This approach is called science. And the tools for science is observation and measure. So we have three approaches: mysticism, philosophy, science. We have three tools: intuition, rationality, observation, and measurement. Okay? With this direction to knowing the knowledge, that I don't want to talk about the epistemology and ontology and other things that you will know if you go to master degree, you will know in the very, very important course by the title of research method. You will know about the ontology, about the epistemology, axiology, and methodology also. But at the level of bachelor degree, it is very more than unit also. Because of that, at the beginning years of the 20th century, they said that everything is observable and measurable. It is science. And psychologists said, we are scientists. We have some experimental approaches to human mind, to mental processes. And they said, no, only that part is science that you can observe and you can show it to other people. Because of that, the basic parts of psychology was about behaviors. Behaviors, some part of mind, some part of human being that you can see, you can observe and measure it and scale it by different measurements that they are available for you. And mental processes are subjective. We have two words in here: objectives and subjectives. Behaviors are objective, mental processes are subjectives. Okay? What you can see, what you cannot see. What you can see, it is objective. What you cannot see, it is subjective. Describe, predict, and explain behavior and mental process using the scientific method. What are the functions of science? Why we need science? Why we don't leave caves? Why? Why we need industry? We are destroying the earth. Everybody knows it. And we are manipulating the life. It is not only about the green space, something more than this. We are destroying this planet. Because of that, we are thinking about going an immigration to other planets. It's very serious, very, very serious. Less than 50 years from now, we will go to the other planets as an immigrant, as a resident, not only for tour and travel. Very serious. Why? Because we have destroyed our planet, our mother planet, Earth. So why we need science? A good scientific theory, a powerful science, has 4 functions. The first function is description. A good theory permits you to describe the nature, to describe the phenomenon, to describe other things. After description is only about observation, not about causality, not about the reasons, not about the roots, not description is only about observation, what you are seeing, what you are observing. But after that, we want to know about the cause and effects, about the causality, about the reasons, about the roots. This is called explanation. Explanation, it is talking about the coordination, the causality or causal relationship between different elements. The second part is prediction. After that, we need prediction. Prediction says us, based on this study, how will happen in the future? Based on this study, these facts, for example, we have a sample of 100 people. If you have done a good research on these people, you can talk about 1,000 people. You can predict the future behaviors, the future elements, the future events of a society. It is called sample and society, sample and population. You work on a sample to predict the future of the society. So the third function of science is prediction. But the fourth function is very important. The fourth function is control. Science helps you control the world. What is the tools for control? Technology. Technology is something different from science. Technology is not science. Technology is based on science. Okay? Subfield of psychology, we will talk about it. We have behavioral neuroscience, experimental psychology, cognitive psychology, developmental psychology, health psychology. My PhD is in health psychology. Clinical psychology, my master degree is clinical psychology. Social psychology, cross-cultural psychology, and new field. You can see it here. We have behavioral genetics. Behavioral genetics studies the inheritance of traits related to behavior. For example, we know some mental disorders have very strong genetic roots. We know some behaviors, for example, depression or obesity or smoking or overeating or aggression. These behaviors have very strong genetic roots, very strong. You can see a family history, for example, of aggression in the males or females of a family. It is called behavioral genetics. Very, very interesting, very modern field of psychology, very modern field. The combination, these fields are called interdisciplinary schools, interdisciplinary fields. Different disciplines. For example, neuroscience is a combination of neurology, psychology, medicine, and sometimes computer science. When you are studying cognitive neuroscience is about cognitive science, computer science, medicine and physiology, and psychology. You should know 4 fields when you want to be a professional in a very, very, very professional scientific field like cognitive neuroscience. Or behavioral neuroscience examines the biological basis of behavior because it's talk about the neuroscience. Neuroscience is something different from neurology or neuropsychology. Neuropsychology talk about the relationship between mind and body. It is neuropsychology. Neuroscience talk about how neurons in the brain and other parts of body connect together, and we have some great projects in America. Some of them is very great project. One of them is UCLA. It's Human Connectome Project, HCP, Human Connectome Project. They are finding all the wiring between the different cells in the brain. I think it is $17 billion. The project is $17 billion. This is a national project, not only for California. After Human Genome Project, HGP, it is Human Connectome Project. You can see very good lectures about it in TEDx and other parts of YouTube about the Human Connectome Project. They are finding all the wiring. And the prediction is after ending this project, for $1, for each $1 they have invest in this project, they will save $4 in brain-related disorders. For example, Alzheimer or Parkinson or autism. These are very important mental. These are also not mental disorders. These are neurological disorders. They are very important neurological disorders in America. And the prediction is after ending this project, Human Connectome Project, we will save for each $1 of investment, $4 we will save in prevention, prediction, and treatment of neurological disorder like this disorder that I talked about. It is Alzheimer and Parkinson and autism and other disorders that are direct related to the neurological part. Is called brain. Clinical psychology deals with the study, diagnosis, and treatment of psychological disorders. Clinical neuropsychology, it is a clinical psychology with the tools is from neuroscience. And cognitive psychology focus on the study of higher mental processes. Same is some higher mental processes. What are our higher mental processes? Some samples. Same in one higher mental process that I have, but chimpanzees doesn't have. Oh, at my level. Which processes we have as human beings and other mammals, especially other homos. We are not the only homo on the earth. We are Homo sapiens. We have other homos. They are like us. For example, chimpanzees are homos. Baboons are homos. And gorillas are homos. We are not the only homo on the earth. We are a specific type of homo with the title of Homo sapiens that we are going to become Homo digitalis or Homo digitus. The transhuman theory says we are going to the next version of human. That version is not called human. It is post-human being, because of the very serious usage of digital world. It is called sometimes post-human, sometimes Homo digitus, sometimes Homo digitalis or transhumanistic being after us. Because of that, we are not the only homo on the earth, but we have some specific traits. Because of those traits, we are called Homo sapiens. What are these traits? Say me at least 2 traits that I have and I only have and other homos don't have it. First, believe, for example, no mammals has belief in God. No mammals has God as a belief, as a religion. You are the only being on the world that thinking about something called God or religion. You are the only being on the earth that cook your food. any other, no other mammals, no other being on the earth could eat their food. You are the only being on the earth that wear dress, pay money for it. Chimpanzees doesn't have any fashion salon. You are the only being on the earth that feels death anxiety. Other beings on the earth don't think about the death, never. And they don't have any death anxiety, never. They don't think, wow, I'm getting old. Cosmetic surgery is only for human beings. Also love, decision making, problem solving, planning for the future, competition, professionalism. These are the unique features of human. Because of these, your name is human. You are called human. Higher mental processes. But more than everything is imagination. You are the only being on the earth that can imagine something in the future. You can see the unseen. You can see the unseen. For example, Matthew wants to be a professional soccer for 2022. Many times when he is not sleeping, in the daydreaming, many times he dream very good matches and imagine he's playing in the soccer field and the medals and the victory and the goals and some failures and some process and some. But he has sit on his couch. No soccer field, anything. It is only imagination. You are the only being on the earth that can imagine something, to see the unseen. These are the higher mental processes. These are because a very, very small part of your brain. Most part of your brain is reptile brain. Most part of your brain is called reptile brain. Not very near, I think it is about 20% of your brain is called mammal's brain or man brain. And less than 1% of your brain is for human brain, less than 1%. It is called cortical brain or brain cortex. But that 1%, less than 1%, not only control other parts, it's very important, but create the features that are so unique for a human being. So it is not a matter of percentage. It's the matter of importance, the matter of functions. That less than 1%, which is called cortical brain or brain cortex, has the higher cortical functioning, the higher mental functions, the higher mental activities like decision making, like mathematics, calculation, like feeling and other parts. Okay. Cross-cultural psychology is the investigates the similarity and differences in psychological functioning in and across various cultures and ethnic groups. It's very important now, especially in some countries like US, that you can find many different majorities and minorities, very different culture. It is very important. The basic part of cross-cultural psychology and cultural psychology is America and Canada, especially Canada, because many people are immigrant to Canada in the last, for example, 30 years. So customer psychology, business psychology, and cross-cultural psychology, and also cultural psychology are very important in some countries like Canada, like Australia, like New Zealand, like US, the countries which the main parts are immigrants. Educational psychology, for example, Matthew has a basic root from Italy. He has born in America, but the basic root is from Italy. And we know that family is very, very important in Italian culture, very important. We know some, for example, family-based movies like Godfather, that in addition to other criminal parts, the good parts is about the importance of family in Italian family, Italian culture. So if Matthew goes to white American people, basically, for example, after 4 or 5 generations, feels that something is different. Something is different. Why? Because we have cultural differences. For example, the importance of family, the importance of baby, the importance of son, sometimes in contrast with the importance of daughters. Some families have some emphasis on to have sons or emphasize on to have daughters. These are differences and similarities between different cultures. There's a new approach in psychology, which is called environmental psychology. It's an interdisciplinary between the biology and weather and geology and psychology. Environmental psychology says the relationship between people and their physical environment. Some part of environmental psychology is related to energy psychology. We know that some specific part of Earth has some energetic field, strong or weak. Because of that, sometimes environmental psychology is as a part of energy psychology. And evolutionary psychology is fantastic. It's fantastic. Evolutionary psychology is about the evolution of mind. We have a very good book from APA, American Psychological Association, and with collaboration with Oxford University Press. The name of the book is The Origins of Mind, or The Origin of Mind. Why we have mind? We didn't have this mind from the beginning of our existence on the earth. We were not like this that we are now. We have evolved in the evolution, and we are evolving to the next version. We are talking about post-human. Post-human is the next version of this human. And from one duration in a process, evolutionary process, we gain the ability to think like this, that we are thinking now. It is called thought or mind. Evolutionary psychology is searching about the roots and the cause, because everything in evolution has a roots and has a cause and has a reason. For example, in the North Pole, bears are white. And other parts of the world, bears are not white. Why? Because of the sun, because of the evolution, because of the survival, coping strategy. Everything is evolution psychology is related to coping strategy to increase the survival rate, the survival probability. So we have mind because of increasing our probability of survival or survival rate. We are so weak. We are so weak. We don't have the eye of the eagle. We don't have the speed of the jaguar. We don't have, for example, the huge body of elephant. We are so weak in contrast to the other animals, not only mammals, animals. But we have something that is our PowerPoint. And also we know that PowerPoint will become our pain point. It is our mind, our ability to think rational, think logically. So why we have mind? It is the basic question of evolutionary psychology. It's a fantastic field in the psychology, and the newborn, I think it is after the beginning the 21st century. Also, before that, there were some notice about the evolution and psychology, but as a scientific field, it is about 20 years now, but has a lot of asserts and a lot of speaking about the mind. Health psychology, my PhD is about health psychology. We investigate the relationship between the mind and body. Forensic psychology. Have you seen the movie 88 Minutes? Matthew, have you seen the movie 88 Minutes? 88 Minutes, the actor is, I think, not Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. 88 Minutes with the actor of Al Pacino is about forensic psychiatry, not forensic psychology. This is about the criminal person in the jail that called from the jail to Al Pacino. Al Pacino is a forensic psychiatrist. That after 88 minutes, you will be killed. And he is in the jail. And in the court day, it is the court day of that criminal man. And he called about after 88 minutes, you will be killed or you will die. It's very, also it's an action movie, but very fantastic movie about the knowledge of forensic psychology and forensic psychiatry. At the beginning of the movie, one of his students asked him that what is the difference between mental disorder and crime? And he said, free will. Free will is the major differentiative criteria between mental process, between mental disorder and crime. If you have free will to do something, you are a criminal. If you don't have any free will, you are under dominance of your mental disorder, you are not criminal. You should go to shelter, yes. You should not be in your society free, walking in the streets because you don't have any control on your behavior. But it is none of your business. It's related to your brain. You are ill. You are not criminal. The first question, a good movie. For one thing, for one time, it is good movie. And health psychology, industrial organizational psychology is the most money maker field of psychology in America, more than clinical psychology. Near 20 years ago, clinical psychology was the most money maker field in the US and also in Europe. But now industrial organizational psychology, like something, the combination with positive psychology and social psychology, the combination, and one specific parts of organizational and leadership. Because of that, you see that many leadership courses are teaching in psychology colleges, not in management colleges, not in business colleges. You see that you can find many good leadership course in psychology department. For example, I think in Harvard or Stanford, we can find the leadership psychology in the department of psychology. Personality psychology is one of the first field of psychology. Program evaluation, it's not very important. Psychology of women is new. Social psychology is not new. It's very the oldest section of psychology is related to education. Social psychology, very, very important and attractive, very, very important and attractive part of psychology is social psychology. But as Matthew said, one of the best courses, best fields in the psychology is the sports psychology. And the sports psychology comes from soccer. The first sport, the first field that wants to know about the psychology of athletic people was soccer. Why? Because you know the most money maker sport all around the world is soccer. Soccer has a very, very great business, very great business all around the world. South America, North America, Europe, my region, Middle East, Korea, Far East, even Australia, even Africa. The most money maker, the greatest business of a sport all around the world is about soccer. Because you know, FIFA is FIFA, yeah. FIFA is Football Association. What's the acronym of FIFA? It is International Football Association. What is the first F for?
Something like that.
International Football Association. I forgot the first F, FIFA. It is one of the greatest foundation.
Federation International de Football Association.
Yeah, Federation, the International Football Association. Yeah, FIFA. And also we have FILA, for example, for wrestling and other parts, and for basketball. And what the greatest, most money maker, and also I think the most beautiful. I think soccer is not sports. Soccer is an art. I think, because sometimes we see something in soccer which is incredible, you cannot imagine, and also it is most popular. Everybody knows everybody. If you don't know anything about soccer, you know Maradona. If you don't know anything about soccer, you know Pele. And also these, for example, Messi. Now Netflix is providing a movie in a mini series in 8 parts, 8 episodes about the Lionel Messi.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Netflix. I read the news about 2 days ago that Netflix wants to make a miniseries in 8 episodes about the Lionel Messi life.
Oh, wow.
Because of that, sports psychology now is very important. For example, one of the most attractive subject in sports psychology is competition anxiety. Competition is about the sport, but anxiety is about psychology. We can work on manipulate not only the competition anxiety in our player, but we can work on the competition anxiety of our opponents. We can create or reduce because of that. And it is very, very based on computer analysis and other part, very scientific, very scientific. I said to you because the next version of your business may be in the sport. Why not? Sport is a business. If you are a sportman, a sportwoman, or you are not, it is not related to your sport field. Sport needs some businesswoman and businessmen, some managers, some leaders that they cannot be from the real field of sport or not. For example, in other parts of the business, you can see. I think that the general manager of Microsoft, I'm not certain about it, was the previous general manager of Coca-Cola. It is not about the field of industry. It is about the management, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's go for 15 minutes break. And after that, in 6:55, I am here for the second part of this session.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the second part of this session. We're going to talk about the working at psychology. Here, 200,000 psychologists in the US, also the statistic as of I think it's 2070 or 80. Twice as many women as men, only 60% from racial minority group. And most of them has the doctoral degree. We have 2 doctoral degrees in psychology, PhD and PsyD. PhD is like other doctoral degrees. PhD is philosophical of doctorate. Your doctorate is based on the research you do during their program of doctorate. And inside your psychological doctorate, you don't do any psychological research. You work on a specific approach, for example, psychoanalysis or behaviorism or humanistic or cognitive therapy and other parts. Most of them inside are in therapy, in the therapeutic setting, and with some have master degrees. Psychologists are different from psychiatrists. What is the difference between psychologists and psychiatrists, especially when we talk about the psychotherapists? What is the difference between psychotherapy and psychiatry? Do you know? When you go to psychotherapy or when you go to psychiatry, for example, you feel depressed. You feel that you have a depressed mood. Which is your choice, psychotherapist or psychiatrist?
Psychotherapy.
Who is psychiatrist? Do you know? Psychiatrist is a general physician from the medical school. Sometimes psychologists are not from medical school. They are sometimes from humanities, human schools, or social sciences even sometimes. Psychiatrists come from medical school. They are general physician with a specialization in the field of psychology. So
Don't
basically, they are
psychiatrists
physicians.
prescribe medications too?
They are doctors of medicine. And after that, as a specialization, they pass the courses of psychiatry. So it is expected to have some treatments based on medication, based on drugs, based on chemistry in psychiatry. In psychotherapy, in clinical psychology, we offer some non-physical treatments for mental disorders. For example, cognitive therapy. We try to change your mind to your irrational thinking, irrational beliefs, and convert them to rational parts. It is cognitive therapy or behavior therapy or rational emotive behavior therapy. And for example, mindfulness-based therapy. They have some effects, some good effects on your behavior, on your thinking, on your feeling, but without any direct biological or medication interventions. No direct. Also here, you see the several percentage of other fields in psychology. College, university, and other academic setting is the most part. Hospitals, school districts, private practice, business, government, or other settings, managed care settings, and other human services. Why do you think so many psychologists work in college and university? What's your mind? How do you think? Why most of them, they are in work in college and university setting? Why?
I think it's because students, when they're like, I guess, starting university or throughout the years in university, they tend to go through a lot. Like they can be emotionally like stressed, I guess, from situations. So there may end up times that students become, I guess, depressed at some point. So they can seek help, which is why a lot of psychologists tend to work
Hmm.
at universities or any other
Yeah,
academic places.
yeah, something like this. And at the end of this chapter, this part, this module, we are really thinking about, do you think intuition and common sense are sufficient for understanding why people act the way they do? Basically, they are not sufficient. Only intuition and common sense. Because we can find a lot of false beliefs during people as common sense. They are false beliefs. And in what way is a significant scientific approach appropriate for studying human behavior? Directly in psychological approach, because the main science that try to discovery, the science of self, the science of thinking, the science of emotion, we have a very, very famous and very reputed, very prestigious department in Stanford, which is called affective science. Affective science, concentrated on the different aspects of affect, emotion, moods, and other parts. As science evolves, in this chapter, we try to talk about the history of psychology. Learning outcome, explain the roots of psychology, discuss today's perspective on psychology, apply psychology to your life, and summarize psychology's key issues and controversy. At first, the roots of psychology. Wilhelm Wundt began the first psychology laboratory in 1879 in Leipzig, Germany. Sometimes Wilhelm Wundt is called the father of experimental psychology. Why? Because his work was more something than experiencing psychology. He was doing experimental psychology. He has a laboratory and access and gathering information about the structures which are involved in the mental processes like perception, like memory, like decision making, like sensation. These are the mental processes that Wilhelm Wundt tried to assess the related information about the process of these mental processes, underlying combination of components in these processes from human being. Wilhelm Wundt began the first psychology laboratory in 1879 in Leipzig, Germany. Structuralism focuses on uncovering. His approach was called structuralism. He was looking for the structures underlying the process of mental processes, focuses on uncovering the fundamental mental components of consciousness, thinking, and other kinds of mental states and activities. Fundamental mental components of the consciousness, thinking, other kind of mental states and activities. Consciousness, just now, consciousness, again, a very hot topic in psychotherapy even, for example, using the psychedelic, using the drugs, using the hallucinative, using LSD, using cocaine, using other drugs, other illegal drugs, is a very hot discussion in medicine because some of them can help people, some of them, not all of them. Some of them can help people to reduce their stress. And now, for example, in a very creditable center like John Hopkins, University of John Hopkins, are working again after, I think, the research was stopped for 30 years. After the Vietnam War, the research was stopped. Again, after 30 years, they have started last year to work on the psychedelic effects on the mind and to regulate mind of people to do their best. Because of that, it is very old story in psychology, consciousness. It's very old story. We have a word, we have a phrase, so-called altered states of consciousness. For example, meditation is an altered state of consciousness, or euphoria by drugs, by substance abuse is an altered state of consciousness. Sometimes, for example, in some Chinese sport like Tai Chi Chuan has some, you can experience some altered state of consciousness. Because of that, we see that in the root of psychology with Wilhelm Wundt, one of the basic components, basic constructions that we work on them was consciousness, introspection. Wundt and other structurists use procedure called introspection, in which they presented people with a stimulus such as bright green object or a sentence printed on a card and asked them to describe in their own word and in as much detail as they could what they were experiencing. Describing your inner experience is introspection. Inspection is meant seeing something. Everything you are seeing, it is in Latin word, in medical Latin word, it's called spection or spector. For example, you say retroscope. Retroscope is a medical procedure for seeing the inner part of your digestive system. Introspection and extrospection. Extrospection is someone out of you, external, will see you, what are you doing? And introspection, you are looking at yourself. So Wundt and other structures, procedure, and about the answering of people to the stimulus they have offered to their clients, to their participants about the what they are seeing, what they are hearing, what they are touching, what they are tasting, and what they are smelling. And as much as possible, they want to elaborate the details. The roots of psychology, another one is functionalism. The first one was structuralism. The second one, these are the roots, these are the basic part. At structuralism by Wilhelm Wundt and functionalism. In functionalism, an early approach concentrating on what the mind does. We are not searching, we are not looking for the structures underlying the process of mind, mental process of behavior. We are looking for, we are observing, gathering information, we are assessing about the functions of mind, the functions of mental activity, and the role of behavior, allowing people to adapt to their environment. So the goal of functionalism is adapt to behavior, adapt to environment, coping strategy. What we are doing, we are looking for the functions, we are looking for the mental activity. And Gestalt, it's called Gestalt because many people in America says Gestalt or Gestalt. It is Gestalt, it's a German word. Gestalt psychology. At first, we should know something about the Gestalt philosophy. Before psychology, Gestalt is a philosophy, an approach in philosophy. In philosophy, Gestalt is mean a whole. In German language, in philosophy, Gestalt is mean whole, total, totalless, totality of something, or all together. It is whole together, it is wholeness. It is Gestalt. In Gestalt psychology, we say that organization of perception and thinking in a whole sense, rather than on individual elements of perception. We are looking at your mental experiences like a whole, together, not one element for perception, one element for sensation, one element for neural system, or no, one element, for example, for other organs or other parts of your brain, or for example, other parts of your mind. We gather them in a total frame. This total frame is called Gestalt. It is one of the basic fundamental approaches when we wanted to look at human being as a science, Gestalt. Finally, now we have 5 perspectives on human being. Now, we have 5 human beings. The first and the most important, the most modern perspective is neuroscience. The approach that views behavior from the perspective of brain, the nervous system, and other biological functions. the approach that views behavior from the perspective of the brain, the nervous system, and other biological functions. For example, your glands. Your glands are very, very important in your behavior, especially thyroid. Thyroid is very important. If you have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism at both sides, you will experience some mental and behavioral problems. Not disorder, but problems. It is other biological functions. Nervous system, spinal cord, brain nerves, hemispheres. We will talk about them in the other chapters. And perspective of brain. The second one, at first, historically, this is the first one. The second one here, and historically, the first one is psychodynamic. In the second half of 19th century, we had a high density of new minds in Europe, high density. For example, during only 40 days or 50 years or 40 years, we had many huge thinkers in different approaches in Europe. In economy and history, we have Marx. In biology, we have Charles Darwin. In philosophy, we have Nietzsche and Hegel. And in mind, we have Freud. Freud was born in 1856. And the first book was published in 1905. The approach based on the view that behavior is motivated by unconscious inner forces over which the individual has little control. The basic part of psychodynamic, dynamic is mean force. We can see here, forces, inner forces. And why psychodynamic? Inner forces, unconscious inner forces. This means psychodynamic. Behavioral. J.B. Watson, we will talk about the scientist, the approach that suggests the observable, measurable behavior should be the focus of a study. We talk about it. The fourth approach is cognitive. It is the thinker man. The approach that focuses on how people think, understand, and know about the world. It is about the cognition. And humanistic. At the beginning of the 70s, 97, 71, 72, until now, we found that human is something more than animals. Yes, we have sometimes, we experience some time of learning, conditioning, conditional learning, or for example, classical conditioning, and even social learning, observational learning. But we have some specific traits in our thinking, in our behavior, in our feeling. This part of psychology is called humanistic psychology. Is there anything like animalistic psychology? Yes. We have many parts and many details about the animal's behavior in learning psychology, about the pigeons, about the rats, about the other animals. The basic theories was driven from animal psychology, not human beings, because of ethical issues. But after that, for example, transcendence. Transcendence is a specific experience by human beings. This approach of psychology is called humanistic psychology. At the end of the 20th century, just at the January 2000, American Psychologist, the Journal of American Psychologists, has a special issue on the topic of positive psychology. Positive psychology is the final fruit, is the final outcome of humanistic psychology. Why? Because it is very rigid, very, very rigid research, very empirical findings about the positive aspects of human beings, like courage, like honesty, like zest, like transcendence, like wisdom, like love of learning, and like perseverance, like leadership. These are the specific positive strengths of us as human beings. This is the major part of positive psychology. So at the end of the psychology, we reach to positive psychology. Psychology and your life. Let me show this research. Okay. Psychology helps solve practical problems. Terrorism. It's very important. Why people sometimes love to kill each other? Why? We are human beings. But you see some behavior, some actions from a terroristic group, like for example, ISIS, that you cannot imagine that if they are human beings. Or social media, cyber psychology is very important now. Very, very important. Autism spectrum disorder. I don't know why, but in America, autism spectrum disorder is very, very public, very popular. Many people have autism here. For social media and for terrorism, there's a good book. Title is Lucifer Effect. Lucifer Effect by Philip Zimbardo. The author is Philip Zimbardo. Philip Zimbardo is, for 2 years or 3 years, was the president of American Psychological Association. Philip Zimbardo has a very good book about terrorism, why good people become evil. Philip Zimbardo was the same scientist that did the research in Stanford prison. It's very, very famous research. And there's a movie with this title, Stanford Prison. One of the greatest and out of the control research in the history of psychology. Fantastic. Stanford Prison. And also now we have cyber psychology. About the effectiveness of cyberspace and the crime, cyber sex, cyber trade, now cyber education, online and on live and other things. I think it is the most severe field of psychology just now. Autism spectrum disorder. Eyewitness accounts of crime. These are the practical approach or applied psychology. Racism, life satisfaction and well-being. That last part is about positive psychology. Key issues and controversies. We have 5 controversies in psychology. Nature versus nurture, conscious versus unconscious, observable versus internal, free will versus determinism, and individual differences versus universal principles. Okay, you can say it here that in 5 approach, neuroscience, cognitive, behavioral, humanistic, and psychodynamic. We have nature versus nurture. Nurture is mean sometimes environment, sometimes your parental training. And nature is heredity, and sometimes nature should be your genetics. For example, in neuroscience, in the debate between nature and nurture, we consider nature because we are talking about brain. We see that everything has a very strong root in the brain, every behavior, every action. And in cognitive therapy or cognitive psychology, we consider both of them. One part of your behaviors, one part of your cognition, one part of your thinking, your mind is related to your genetic and heredity. And a major part is related to your training, parental training, social training, observational learning, and other parts. Or in behavioral, in contrast with the neuroscience or biological approach. In behavior, we concentrate on nature, nurture. We said you are tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is the phrase coined by John Locke. John Locke was a very old philosopher, I think about the 18th or 19th century, John Locke. He called human baby as a tabula rasa. Tabula rasa was clean disk. He said that it is a raw disk, nothing on a disk, nothing on this picture. There's a white picture that after coming to this world, we as parents, we as society will draw something on this whiteboard, on this tabula rasa. So everything you can find in a person, it is related to the training, to the nature, to the to the nurture, to the environment. It is about behavioral. And humanistic also talking about nurture environment. Says elite people around us are very important in shaping our mind, in shaping our decisions, in shaping our actions and other things. And psychodynamic says also about nature. Why? Because the basic word in the psychodynamic approach is instinct. Instinct is very important. The basic inner force for doing a lot of things is instinct. So psychodynamic consider nature in the debates, the controversies between the nurture and nature. Psychodynamic talks about nature and conscious versus unconscious determinants of behavior. Neuroscience is unconscious, talk about unconscious, and cognition, unconscious, but not like psychodynamic. Neuroscience talk about unconscious, but says the unconscious part of mind has the roots in the brain, not out of your body, in your brain. But in psychodynamic approach, we talk about the unconscious in your mind. And when we ask psychodynamic scientists or psychologists, where is unconsciousness? They say, it's inner you. Which part of me? They say, it's inner you. But neuroscientist says your unconscious part is a part of your biological body, biological brain. So the site, the location of unconsciousness is very different between neuroscience approach and psychodynamic approach. Again, cognition in the controversy between consciousness and unconscious, consider both of them. Behavioral says, no, everything you do, you are responsible, you are conscious about your behavior, you should be conscious about your behavior. If you cannot be conscious about your behavior, you are not normal, you're abnormal. And in humanistic, again, we say, yes, you should accept the responsibility and accountability. Existential philosophy and existentialism and existential psychotherapy is very important approach by Irving Yalom in humanistic. Highly recommended to read some novels. Irving Yalom is a professor, merit professor in Stanford in psychiatry, Department of Stanford, and he has written many novels about stories of psychotherapy. When Nietzsche Wept was the first book, very famous book. And also there's a movie with this, based on this book, but the movie is not so interesting, but the book is fantastic. And other books about the psychotherapy stories, very, very attractive stories, very deep attractive stories about the different parts of mind. Irvine, Irvine, Yalom, Ayalom, or Lom. Okay. And psychodynamic again said you are completely unconscious. Observable behavior versus internal mental processes. Naturally, neuroscience talk about the internal emphasis, and also cognitive talk about the internal emphasis, and also humanistic talk about internal emphasis, and also psychodynamic talk about internal emphasis. The only approach that emphasizes on the observable behavior, only observable behavior, without any consideration for internal parts of our mind is behaviorism or behavioral. And free will versus determinism. Determinism is you are doing everything only by the mandatory force. There is a destiny for you, and you don't have any good force of free will. Neuroscience and behaviorism and psychodynamic says about determinism. But cognitive psychotherapy, cognitive psychology, and humanistic, especially humanistic psychology, is based on free will. Based on free will. They said you can do anything you want you do in your life if you can accept the responsibility and accountability. It is based on free will, humanistic. Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow are the greatest founder of humanistic psychology. I do recommend. They have died near 30 years ago, 17 and 18, but highly recommended to read their books, especially Abraham Maslow has a book with the title of Motivation and Personality, and Carl Rogers have a book with the title of Becoming a Human. Fantastic books. Carl Rogers and Rollo May. Rollo May is the author of Existential Psychotherapy. Very good books. Game changer. They can change your game of life because they can change your view to the life, your perspective, your meaning of life. And individual versus universal principles. Neuroscience and cognitive and psychodynamics says, yes, we have universal emphasis. Neuroscience and psychodynamics says because their emphasis of nature, and nature is universal. And also here they say that, yes, we have universal principles. But humanistic and cognitive says, no, this is we have some individual differences. People are different, not only at the total universal laws. And behavioral psychology says about both approach. The last part is about the research in psychology. The scientific method is the systematically acquiring knowledge and understanding about behavior and other phenomena. Scientific method in every field of science, in sport, in chemistry, in physics, in science, in social sciences like law, like sociology, like anthropology, like psychology, and also in hard sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, aerospace, engineering, technology, and other parts. Scientific method talks about these 4 stages, very simplistic. Identify questions of interest. What's your question? What do you want to know? What's your interest? What is your research question? Second, formulate an explanation. It is theory or hypothesis. Sometimes it is induction, sometimes it is called deduction. But based on your hypothesis or based on your theory, you should formulate an explanation for your question. Elaborate and describe and formulate your question. In step 3, carry out research design to support or refuse the explanation. Carry out research design to support or refute the explanation. And at the 4th stage, communicate the findings. So for doing the research, for conducting research, you should do the 3rd step. But 1st, 2nd, and 4th stage are the primary and post-action parts, especially the level 1 and level 4. At level 1, you should say your question in details. And in level 4, you should discuss and conclude and communicate the finding you have found. The central focus of the scientific method is research theory. What is theory? You should know the meaning of the words. It is very important. As a student of university, it's very important. You should have many definitions. Sometimes a student, especially in bachelor degree, says, what are the functions of definitions? Definitions help your mind think very in details, very specific. Theory, broad explanation predicting phenomena of interest. Hypothesis, prediction stated in a testable way. And operational definition, translation of a hypothesis into measurable procedures. And psychological research, descriptive research, archival research, naturalistic observation, survey research, and case study. These are different subcategorization of descriptive research. In archival research, only we work with the existing data. Sometimes it is called laboratory, library research. Archival research, sometimes it's called library research. You go to the library and find the existing data and gathering and communicating data, and you can do your research. Naturalistic observation is about naturally occurring behavior, no intervention. For example, you want to know, for example, how animal lives. You want to do a research. You want to do, for example, work on the testosterone level of soccer players. No intervention. Only in sometimes of soccer playing, you go to the field and check the testosterone level. No naturalistic observation. You only observe the nature of your question. In survey research, which is very popular in America, samplers ask questions. Again, you don't do any intervention, but you ask some question. And in case study, this is only for one person or two person, especially in one intensive investigation of an individual or small group. For example, you want to study, to research about the effects of head trauma on memory. We cannot find many people with head trauma. You should go to the brain surgery ward and ask them, what are your head trauma people? And after that, for one person or two person, for example, research about the effects of head trauma on his or her memory. It is case study. Case study is very specific knowledge, very long-term knowledge, but very good knowledge. But because we have a very clear report at the end of the case study. Correlation of research. Correlation is something is happening at the same time of other things, always. But there is no cause and effect, no causality relationship between them. One of them is cause, one of them is effect. No cause and effect, only the same time. It is called correlation. Two sets of variables examined to see if they are associated, positive correlation, or negative correlation. If, for example, increasing both of them, it is positive correlation. If one of them increase, one of them decrease, it is negative correlation. Correlation does not show causation. Experimental research is very important and very basically and very scientific. Establish cause and effect relationship. Pay attention. In naturalistic observation, you do only observe without finding any relationship. If you find some relationship, it is based on your description. Only observe and describe. No intervention, no finding relationship. It is something like reports. Very, very specific, detailed report is descriptive research. In the second part, you are reporting what you have describing, and finally, you have some explanation, some correlation. In addition to description, you say, yes, I can find some simultaneously happening of, for example, 2 or 3 phenomena. No causality, but the correlation. So in description, only description, natural observation. In correlation study, you have, in addition to a description, you have explanation. Explanation means you can find some, not causality, happening at the same time, or some relationship, some association, but it is not about the causality. In experimental research, you are researching about the cause and effect relationship, deliberately producing a change in one variable and observing the effects of that change. Which is very group control, experimental control, and other parts. Experimental group is the group you are working on them, and control group is the group that you control them, don't have any change. And after that, you have some independent variable and dependent variable in both groups. And you can see it. Okay, that's good. We can go for 15 minutes. I am here until next 15 minutes for your quiz, week 1. It's better for you to do just now. It is not mandatory, but it is better for you to do just now. It's about the, from your PowerPoint, from the first chapter and second chapter about the neuroscience.
Professor, after we leave, we can, or after we finish, we can leave.